Welcome back to the channel. My name is CJam, and today we're going to be discussing Moon Knight Season 1, Episode 1, and this is going to be a spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen the episode and if you don't want anything spoiled for you, be warned. We're going to be discussing spoilers. Now, I liked this first episode. I really did, and I thought it was really intense. It had me on the edge of my seat, wondering what's gonna happen next, because we have our main character, Stephen Grant. Well, he's the main character in this episode, but Moon Knight, the main character of Moon Knight, is supposed to be Mark Spector, right? And he has a personality disorder where he splits from Mark Spector to Stephen Grant, and then Mark Spector is the side that becomes Moon Knight. So it's weird. It's a lot of mind stuff, mental stuff going on, and so that's the overall of the show. That's the basis of the show. We're following Mark Spector, Moon Knight, who has a personality split, and one of those personalities is Stephen Grant. So we meet those three versions in this episode: Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, and Moon Knight, right? And he gets his powers from Khonshu, who is an Egyptian deity from Egyptian mythology, right? We'll get into that some more, but I'm excited about this show. I need more Marvel content. Please give it to me now. So I'm excited that we finally can talk about Moon Knight, and Oscar Isaac threw his very soul into this role. He's acting like so awesomely, if that's a word, awesomely. And Oscar Isaac is one of my favorite actors, and I'm really liking how he's portraying Moon Knight and the kind of character that he's giving us. I really believe that he has a mental issue, in the way he's delivering his lines, and just just Stephen Grant's overall personality. I actually believe that something is wrong with this guy, because this guy is not okay. He needs professional help. Like, the way he's waking up in the middle of the night, not knowing that he was sleeping, and the way he's like appearing in the middle, like on the bus, that scene when he woke up on the bus and he didn't know how he get there, that is serious, right? He needs professional help. And I thought it was one of the funny things of this episode was his date with his coworker. When she came up to him while he was at work, and she said that she'll see him Friday at 7 at the steakhouse, right? And then Stephen was, because he was Stephen at this time, Stephen was like, "Are you asking me on a date?" But obviously we knew that they had set a date prior to her coming up to him just now. But I think that Mark, his alter ego Mark Spector, is the one that had the date with that girl, and not Stephen Grant, right? And in this episode we see a lot of Stephen Grant, even though Mark Spector is the main version of the character who is Moon Knight. This episode is a Stephen Grant centric episode, and I think Mark had the date and definitely not Stephen. So yeah, I like that little dynamic. It's gonna be interesting to see how they balance all the different personalities, and as we saw, they're battling for control of the body. The two personalities are fighting. It's weird, but it's interesting, and we've never seen anything like this from Marvel, so it should be really cool. And we all know that elevator scene that we saw in the trailer when Stephen was in the elevator and he saw Khonshu like walking down the hall, with his mummy wraps and his little staff, and then it turns out to be that elderly lady who's just using the elevator. That was really cool to see that scene in full context, but it was weird. Don't get me wrong, it was weird, right? But that was pretty good. That was fun. A lot of this episode we saw in the trailer, so I'm really hoping that we get a lot of exciting stuff in the rest of the episodes. There's gonna be 6 episodes, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then we have Ethan Hawke's character Arthur Harrow with his cane, his crocodile head cane, and his soul stealing. He literally stole that lady's soul. Talk about Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat. Your soul is mine. That's what he was doing. And then his tattoo, his creepy, spooky tattoos. Like, what? His tattoos are moving. like moving. That was weird, and that was some serious stuff. And then the broken glass in his sandals. This guy is operating on some serious spiritual level, because that is not normal. That if that's normal, then I don't want to see what's not normal. And this show is really giving us, it's really an Egyptian mythology 101. You know, they're explaining the Ennead. You know, they're different bits and pieces of the episode. They're like teaching us about Egyptian mythology. They explain that the Ennead is the 9 deities or common gods of the Egyptian mythology. They're just explaining it to us as we go. And the security guard at the museum, the Egyptian museum, because it's based in London, right? He's like the worst security guard ever. Like, he's the worst. He's not at work to do any securing. He's just he's just collecting a check. And then Steven's supervisor, clearly the one who is always telling him that he has inventory duty tonight, clearly she has the power to fire him, and she knows he should be fired because he's just a delinquent. He comes to work when he feels like he's missing work. He doesn't even know he's missing work, but she knows. And I'm wondering if she likes him, because he should be fired. He needs to be fired. He's doing nothing for that museum. But she's cool. I like her, and I hope they keep her around. And the cutscenes when they were in the town square, the little town square, and he came across Arthur Harrow for the first time. That same soul stealing scene, and then they wanted to get the scarab, and he was about to hand him the scarab, and then he kept switching. What was happening there? He kept switching. Stephen wanted to give him the scarab. Mark didn't want to give it to him. So that's why his hand kept closing and kept pulling away. If you didn't know what was happening there, that's what was happening. His two personalities were fighting each other. One wanted to give it to Arthur, and the other one didn't. So that's what was happening. And then at the end, close to the end of that scene, when they were taking him away to like literally forcefully take the scarab from him, like he switched to Mark Spector, and they didn't show us the fight. All they did was they cut to a scene with him with the scarab in his hand, and his hand was all bloody, right? Because you could have you could have seen that there was a fight. And I'm like, why are you not showing the fight? That is a poor cop-out. That is a cheap cop-out. I get that we're jumping all over the place because of his mental state, right? But I need to see that fight, because right now Disney Plus is having this huge parental guidance thing where they're having parental controls on Disney Plus to allow parents to like censor what their kids watch and stuff, which is good, which is fine, right? So why not show that to me? And what's happening now with Disney and Marvel and Disney Plus is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out last year, right? That was an awesome, phenomenal show, right? And I watched that show. I know that show beat for beat. And then what's happening now is people are realizing that they're going back and editing out the blood out of that show and some of the intense violence and gore. But I'm saying, why would you do that over a year later? Why would you edit out that stuff and not have two versions of it on Disney Plus? Have the hardcore adult version and have the kid-friendly version that will show up within the parental control section that kids can watch, right? Why are you like making those drastic changes right now when you have the parental guidance feature, the parental controls? Is that what we should expect from Disney Plus going forward? They'll show us a show in its true form, and then a little bit down the road, because they have the power to edit it, they're going to edit it and take out what they want to take out and give us what's left of it. No, that's not what I want. I dislike that so much. And I think going back to the scene where they were fighting, I think that's a cheap cop-out, as I was saying, and they're cutting this. You can tell that this episode was chopped up and a lot of stuff was missing, because there's a scene where in the trailer, Steven is falling off a cliff of some sort. You know, when he woke up in this episode with his jaw broken, in the trailer we saw that scene of him falling, but it wasn't in the episode. So I'm really wondering, what is Disney Plus's endgame? What is Marvel's endgame? Why are they making these weird censorship changes concerning their content? And I mean, you have the ability to show like a normal version, a true form, and a kid friendly. Like it's just weird. It's just really weird. And I understand that Disney is a family brand, but it's just weird. I really don't understand it. And let's not get sidetracked. Back to Moon Knight. But we're still talking about Moon Knight, right? The Moon Knight transformation. I get that. I understand that the suit just manifests on him when he switches to Mark Spector from Stephen Grant, right? But I could tell it was CG. Obviously it's CG, yes, excuse me, but I didn't like how it looked. And just as how they were driving on the countryside roads, and you could tell that some of the car chase sequences were fake. When the car slammed into the side of the truck with the logs, you can tell that was CG. When he fell after, as I mentioned earlier, and broke his jaw, you can see when Khonshu came up behind him, you know, the Egyptian deity came up behind him, you can tell that he wasn't really there, right? You can tell that it was green screen. And it's just like, I don't expect to be able to easily pinpoint the obvious CG in these Disney Plus shows. I mean, it's Marvel. They have this thing down to a science, right? Why am I able to tell that easily that this is CG and that is CG, right? But I love the episode just the same. It's just those little things, you know, the cutscenes and the parental guidance and the CG, but everything else, loved it. As I said, it's intense. I really want to know what's coming next, because this dynamic between Steven and Mark and Moon Knight and Khonshu, it's just weird and different and interesting, and it intrigues me. And all they were doing with the mirrors, you know, the reflections, you know, in the mirror that person is Mark, outside of the mirror in the real world it's Stephen Grant. So that's just, it's so unique and it's so different. And every time his reflection would stop and look at him, I was like, that is weird, but it's cool and I love it. And I really cannot wait for episodes 2. So have you seen Moon Knight episode 1? What do you guys think? If you haven't seen it, are you interested in seeing it? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will catch you guys in the next review.